Hello, everybody. This is Jade Robertson, social media manager at Buck Productions. Long time no stream. Happy to have everybody back here tonight for an awesome Buck live stream. Project Row in the house. Welcome, Project Row. Kathleen Ryan. Welcome, everybody. It's going to be a sweet night. Just want to also shout out tonight is the Selena Life, Death, and Money premiere over at Reel's channel for one of our Buck Originals series, Life, Death, and Money, which follows and looks at the impact of these crazy celebrity stories that have happened with their deaths and the whole estate wars that happen afterward. Shout out to Chris Elsley, the Boca Collective, Justin Harding, Rob Bruner, all the peeps that bring those to life, and all the awesome people at Reel's channel. As well, we got awesome content always coming to you. YoMTV Maps, 40-Year-Old Property Virgin, Merchants of the Wild, and don't forget we also had Marvin Gaye last week on Reels. Okay, I'm going to do a quick bio intro for our live stream guest this evening, Mr. David Kalinauskas. So Buck Live is back with a bang. Happy to be back. We're very excited to welcome our next guest, director, executive producer, documentarian, D. Kalinauskas, David, of Airfoil Media and Unified Content. So beginning as a teen, making handycam films with his friends on the ski slopes, David has always wanted to tell compelling stories in a visually captivating way. Throughout university, David was greatly affected by social activism, and this piqued his interest in documentaries. By way of his passion for telling impactful stories that matter, this led him to achieve a post-grad degree at Sheridan College, represent, specializing in documentary filmmaking and producing. Since then, David has honed his skills with numerous long and short-form projects, including branded content and commercials. Naturally empathetic and warm, which we're about to see, he really enjoys the collaborative process with everyone coming together and contributing to the final outcome. Working in short-form production with other creative people has allowed David to develop a strong visual shorthand, which is evident in his contemporary and evocative cinematic style. So he's worked with brands such as Lincoln, Microsoft Absolute, Glenlivet, Samsung, and Gay Lee, and his most recently completed film, a documentary called Freshwater Film, about the exceptional story of one man, Antonio Leonard, who surfs the stormy winter waves of the North American Great Lakes, has signed to a U.S. international distribution deal with Principal Media and is set to hit TV and streaming platforms in 2021. David lives in Toronto with his wife Bridget and adorable kiddos Leo and Forrest, and can be caught flying down the city bike lanes on his electric skateboard like he's Marty freaking McFly. Very excited to talk all about Freshwater, a very exciting project that we've all been really excited about at Buck, and looking forward to celebrating it a bit tonight in the spirit of it. So without further ado, let me welcome Mr. the Buck live stream. Welcome, David! And there he is. Hello, sir. How are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. Good, man. Thank you for taking the time this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you go to see? I heard you said you just went to Sheridan. Did you go to Sheridan as well?
No, I have a lot of friends that do, and so I put that little represent.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Shout out. Yeah, just a little shout out, little sidebar. I feel like the Sheridan grads all do very well. So you are one of the elite in my mind, as far as I went to Brock University. So it was like,
oh, sweet.
we just got thrown a bunch of theory and then had to figure it out ourselves. So I'm living proof of figuring it out themselves. But yeah, man. How are you doing? How are you doing tonight?
I'm really good. Really good. Thank you very much for taking the time and showing an interest.
Absolutely. I see you've got a cool little editing suite back there. Or what are you rocking behind you?
Yeah, this is so. I have a newborn baby at home. She's like pushing 6 weeks, or she's 5 weeks, so very, very young, and a toddler who I put down a little earlier. So I was able to sneak away and run into my studio to get a little bit of peace and quiet. So that's what so behind me is just the edit suite we have. It was either that or a psych wall. So I figured this one's a little bit more interesting to look at.
If you don't mind me asking, what are you working on right now?
Behind looks that looks like a commercial for DoorDash.
Nice.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I believe it's this commercial. Look out for it. It's got a bunch of cowboys on horses riding through the city, and you'll probably recognize it. And it's coming out a broadcast. I think now, like today, tomorrow, like this week, some point. So
nice. And did you were you the sole director but you're also editing it?
I was doing yes, I was doing some editing work. I didn't edit the commercial, but I was just making some adaptations for a few of the deliverables, which is why it's behind me. But yeah, and I directed it, and that was a project that went through Airfoil, my production company. So
very nice, very nice.
Yeah,
Well, I'm excited to get into a lot. I've planned quite a lot, but I think something just to sort of break some ice and get us into just this live stream interview things. What have you been watching? What have you been reading? What have you been consuming as far as content these days?
Good questions. So the majority of my media consumption, especially since kids, has been podcasts. I listen to a lot of the New York Times Daily. That kind of keeps me up on current affairs. I was joking with a colleague of mine the other day saying the only media that seems to have survived my newborn just coming into the world a month ago is Bachelor in Paradise, because that's my wife's watching. So for some reason, that's the one that lived on. And I just kind of pop in and out on that one every now and then. And to be honest, she's doing a heck of a lot of work with the kiddos. So I let her do her thing when she has a moment to spare. Other than that, I've been sort of seeking out more kind of Canadian documentaries, like docs from my peers that I can take a look at what everyone else is doing and look for inspiration and stuff like that.
Very nice. Just to take a rewind, shout out to Bridget and your boys, and just the whole support I'm sure it takes and sacrifice it takes to sort of balance this type of work and this role and playing this sort of role in the film industry. I'm sure the family support is much needed. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, when I was looking at the credits of Freshwater, a lot of Kalinauskases were in the credits as well.
Yeah, that's right. So I had in there, we have a thank you to my brother and my sister-in-law. And they were very nice to watch the film in a very early cut of the form, and they gave a lot of notes on it. So they had a special thanks. And then my wife Bridget also, we joke that her role in this whole operation is CMO, which stands for Chief Morale Officer. And so we put her in there as an official credit.
That should become an official credit and be under Nabet Ayatsi and all of the. We'll allot her travel time as such. Well, I guess just the whole. I was going to go backwards. Now I'm just going to go forwards. Let's go jump in and surf on over to Freshwater and how this story came to you and how that whole situation got started for you, as far as just the initial first steps.
Yep. So Freshwater, I can't remember how I got wind of it. I was, in I guess 2017, 2018, I was in a bit of like a creative. We'll probably circle back to this theme, but a big part about being a director is having a voice, and finding your voice is a lot easier said than done. And I was really kind of just looking for what it is that I really felt like I needed to bring to the table, to the world, really. And like, I considered kind of going down the scripted route, and I was kind of deep into commercials already, but wanting to kind of have more of a creative outlet, and looking into short documentaries, profiles, something that I could kind of sink my teeth into in the meantime. And when I heard about lake surfing, I really didn't know. Like my brother and I grew up skiing, and I remember we always would compare it to surfing, but there's no surfing in Canada, so we would ski. That's kind of a thing. Right. And when I heard that you can surf on Lake Ontario, I live right down the street from Woodbine Beach. So and that's where a lot of surfing is done here. And it kind of blew my mind. And right away, I'm like, okay, this is the thing. I don't know what the film is. I don't know what it is, but this is something I'm going to dig into. And I'm going to just make something out of this. And it was really just throwing it against the wall. And I reached out, did a bit of research, saw that Antonio was the one who was really kind of galvanizing the community and starting the shop. I reached out to him, and he was just opening the shop when I did. So I went into their shop while they're still putting the lights up, and it was like ladders and paint cans all over the place. And we just chatted a little bit about making a film about forecasting waves on the lakes, which is like a completely different thing than forecasting in the ocean. It's a little bit different. Right. And people don't necessarily need to know that, but like
No, it's important. This is good. I like it. For the surfers out there, this is
for
good.
the surfers out there. Shout out. Yeah, the on the ocean, waves are generally formed. The best waves are formed on the other side of the world, really, by like big, either hurricanes or big tropical storms, and they travel across the ocean, and when they hit the shore, it's a completely different weather system on the other side of the world. So like by the time they hit the shore, they've had a lot of chance to travel. They organize, and they're very like. They can be mellow, they can be big, but in any case, they're predictable, and they come into these tropical areas of the world. People wearing board shorts and like bathing suits and hanging out and having a great time. Whereas on the lakes, they're big enough bodies of water, but the waves are created by wind swell. So a lot of times they're surfing in the middle of the storm. There's like blowing wind and snow and sleet and rain. And so it's fall in the winter time are the times where the storms are usually kind of come through and kick enough wind to push some waves on the shore. And it's just a much more frantic, messy experience. And so I was interested in the differences there between the ocean and the lake, and how it's unique here in Canada and on the Great Lakes. And that's where we started. We were gonna put something out online, and it was gonna be a 3-minute profile on this film on these people, and then the film really snowballed from there as I got kind of deeper into the subject matter, which is very much the case. I think a lot of times in documentary, the deeper you get, the more interesting you find the nuggets. So eventually it was obvious that the story really revolved around Antonio. And if he would allow me, I would just kind of take it as far as he would. And he and his partner Lucas were so awesome to let us in to their they were an open book. He said from the get-go they were really an open book. He really didn't have any reason to trust me and my story making telling, but they did, and I guess we hit it off, and that was how it all got done.
Nice. Okay, so at what point did you get the Buck Productions, Jim and Sean team involved?
Yeah. So we've finished the creation of the film in, I want to say, April 2020, which, as we all know, was something else was just getting going around then. So that was, for someone who wants to put a film out into the world, not the greatest timing, especially someone who's looking to do like a theater run in festivals. That was the initial thought, like, hey, we're going to run this through a bunch of festivals and see what kind of traction we can dig up. That plan, we were very back and forth, like maybe we should push through, maybe COVID's not going to do too much. And we ended up making the call. Well, you know what? I was getting a lot of people's input on the edits, and by this point, the edit was kind of finished and ready, and the film was generally done. We were just getting it colored and getting those masters back. But I was, seeking a little bit of advice on what people think I should do with the film. And Buck happened to be posting their pandemic work from home, I guess, setups at the time, and I was following Buck. I can't remember how I got connected with Buck, but I was following the Instagram channel, and then I saw that there was a surfboard in one of the pictures, and that happened to be Jimmy's work from home setup. Jimmy's, I guess, a surfer, and so I just reached out and said, hey, I have a surf film. You want to just take a look and let me know what you think? And that became a much bigger thing, and Jimmy really liked it. I think he showed Sean. I've not met Sean in person yet, but together they decided that they wanted to kind of take it under their wing. They offered to distribute the film here in Canada and introduce it to a few other distributors in the States for U.S. and international representation. That was kind of a one-hit wonder for Principal Media. They picked it up right away, and then we kind of all had this sort of three-way alliance, and then that's how we've been rocking it right now. And it's been doing really well. It's for those who need to go to bed soon, it's on Crave in Canada. So if you are gonna look to watch the film Freshwater, it's on Crave. You can take a look there now.
Yeah, go check it out on Crave right now. Plug. Let's do it. Yes. Well, going into just how many sort of facets came together with this film, obviously starting with just this initial interest in the comparison of surfing the lakes versus surfing the oceans. But you weave this story of identity with Antonio and the politics that he faced in Brazil, and also this entire community that's been built up. Was there any point during the creation of this and the editing of this where it was a longer cut and it was difficult, and were there other facets that maybe you had in mind but had to cut? I'm just curious how that worked for you.
Yeah, this one was the most difficult aspect of filming this project by far. This is not even a tough decision. It was filming the surfing on the lakes. It was just a lot more it was just really eye-opening, you know, like you see all these like Red Bull films and these extreme sports films out there that they capture all these insane moments that are so fleeting, and they're out, like, you don't necessarily give them credit at the time, but and in this case too, it's like it's a lot of work. We spent, I think I counted like 30 days on the side of a lake in the snow and the rain and whatever conditions, filming surfing, and I think maybe 7 or 8 of those days probably like wound up in the film.
Okay.
And yeah, it's just difficult. And then even just like in the lakes, there's like the community is so strong, but like they don't have enough waves to surf every single day, so they're not like rippers. We don't have like a ton of like shredders in Ontario. There's a handful who are expats from elsewhere, so finding people to surf and the conditions, and then driving to those conditions. Like a lot of the best surfing we shot like 3 hours away from town, sort of thing. So that was definitely the best, sort of the hardest part about the film. The actual span of filming was about 3 and a bit years, I think. So I was, while I was trying to figure out what exactly it was, I was kind of like putting things together as I went. So I had a lot of little sequences and scenes and bits and pieces put together here and there. And then when we finally got it, like when we finally got a window to sort of get all the final footage, we went to Brazil and got the rest of it, and then came back home. And we kind of had a completed, you know, hard drive of stuff we needed to put the film together. Then from there, it all just kind of came together relatively naturally. I worked on it a little bit every single day and got it done.
Yeah, well, I'm curious to the whole nature of collaboration of making something like this. I'm curious, like who were sort of the main go-tos, and giving them a shout out in this regard. Obviously, we have Antonio and Lucas, as well as your cinematographer, editor, locations, brands. I'm just curious, going into a bit of detail as to just, you know, sort of the main key people that really helped bring this project to life for you.
Yeah, you know, this project, I would say, was very much, I guess, a partnership between 3 key people: myself, Andrew Kerr, who's our cinematographer. I've worked with him since film school, and we have really, like, we're so connected on what we want. Really, I feel like sometimes the scenes direct themselves, but when working with him. But so mad props to Andrew, and he really kind of like was one of the people who encouraged me to just kind of like keep pushing through when I was like, let's just finish it now. But and then Antonio, our subject, like without the 3 of us were really kind of, I think, the key, along with Lucas's partner, to kind of like put it all together. And we did have kind of some financial support later on. One of our executive producers, Ron Tite, really had no reason at all to invest in the film, but he really did and believed in it. And so he was another big part of it. Nice. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I just want to say, you know, like, congratulations to you, David, and the entire team. Obviously, we here at Buck are super, super proud of it as well. And, you know, just, you know, continued success here. And obviously, it's surfing, guys. So go check it out on Crave if you want to see some badass surfing in the Great Lakes. Surf the greats. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it's like it's really a heartfelt story as well. Like, I mean, it's interesting. It's outdoors, so it's very visual, but at the same time, it's a heartfelt story with a lot of growth in the characters, and, you know,
absolutely.
Yeah,
there's a lot people can hopefully identify with.
Yeah, I think so.
From that perspective, and just and from you finding your voice with this too, like that's something that you know, that shines as well within this. So that's really cool as well.
Thank you.
Wanted to take a step back, a little rewind, as we talked about what's going on right now. To what were your first few years like, getting into the industry, like that transition from, because you did do a degree and then you went to Sheridan and then you sort of got your feet wet. So I'm curious about just those first few years and just what those were like for you.
Yep. Yeah. So I did a degree at York in international development, and that was a big kind of growth period in my life. I think you know, the plan, I think, was always to sort of get into film. As really, I knew something that I could do every day and really still be in love with. But international development and just like kind of social justice in general was a very my other strong passion. And bringing those two worlds together was kind of I guess a dream at the time when I was younger. And then getting to do some film production work. I got postgraduate in film production at Sheridan. It's Advanced Television and Film. It's a program.
Yep.
If anyone's looking, it's a pretty good program. I really do think there is still some value in going to school for film, but I would encourage people to find a place that has credibility and a place that can kind of get you in and out. I don't think you need to be doing it for like 4 years straight. You can kind of get the gist, I think, and it's really about, like I said, finding your voice and just going and doing it. And then after that, after school, I started kind of doing some AD work in the scripted world and feature films, and I was also simultaneously doing just some corporate videos, stuff that could kind of pay the bills, pay my phone bill, and those, eventually pay my rent. And so I was doing some corporate stuff, and then the more I was progressing and snowballing on both elements, and as a crew member, and then as a kind of a videographer, kind of more like director editor type, and eventually at one point I kind of hit a head with the crew work, and had one really terrible project, and I was like, you know what, this is not for me. I really do think that even though this other stuff seems a lot less glamorous right now, I'm gonna just focus on that. And that really kind of got me down the path of branded work, and I did a lot of branded work and kind of cut my teeth in that for a while. Developed first, eventually, like a visual identity to kind of how I like stuff to be, developed a lot of tools on that side of things that I can kind of like bring to all my other work. And then because I think branded and short form production is really good for that, for creating sort of like a visual repertoire for a director, and to understand that language. And then that slowly snowballed into kind of more personal projects like short films, and eventually Freshwater is kind of the first sort of consumable length film I've done. It's like a 45-minute one, and then and then lots more now in development. I'm kind of hooked at this point.
Nice. Yeah. So you got involved with unified content first before you started your company?
Nope, that was So Airfoil was kind of like the corporate stuff, and then it really has snowballed now. And the role I have in Airfoil, which is my kind of it's like a commercial production company. We do a lot of digital stuff and broadcast stuff, and my role is mainly as kind of as an executive producer and a creative director. I still do direct a lot of projects through Airfoil, but I also have commercial representation as a director, and that kind of was almost like a spin-off from the work I was doing on my own with Airfoil. And now we have a small team at Airfoil, but eventually, you hit a point where to really have to take a next step as a director in the commercial world, it's eventually important to get people to back you as a representation. And so that's kind of that. It's sort of a two-headed dragon.
Nice. So,
Yeah.
wearing many different hats, and
A lot of different hats.
Yeah, and being in different rooms at different times, but doing similar things, so they all kind of sort of blend into one another. And one sort of leads to the next. Talking about the Canadian film scene in general, do you have any favorite Canadian documentaries or documentary filmmakers that you sort of are chasing, or that you kind of want to be in that sort of group at some point?
Ooh, Canadian documentary filmmakers. I feel like it's a bit of an ephemeral position, as being a documentary filmmaker. In a lot of cases, there's a lot of people who make one documentary out there.
Yeah.
Especially in Canada. It's a tough one to make a career of, and I think a lot of people who make documentaries have other things on the go as well. So no name comes to mind. I do, though, more kind of in the realm of what I consider my peers, people who I watch, relatively frequently, or kind of keep tabs with relatively frequently. I would recommend also everyone who's looking for stuff like this is Mark Bone. He does a He's making a lot of documentaries seemingly right now, and seems to be on a really good trajectory. And I think just kind of good to keep up with people who are a little younger and kind of up and coming. And then there's another guy over there, I think it's Michael Del Monte, I think his full name is. He does a lot of great films. Both have recently released some stuff, so I would take a look at their work. It's really good, really inspiring, very visual. Yeah.
I'm taking notes. I like going back to that because that's what I learned in film school when I was getting bashed with theory over my head. Was we as Canadians started the documentary. We coined the term, as John Grierson did back in the day with like Nanook of the North,
really?
and these old documentaries.
Cool.
So it is to follow in our Canadian tradition to make documentaries or something like that. Not really at all, but
oh, very cool. I didn't realize we coined the term. I did take a film theory class when I was in my undergrad, and we watched all those films as well. Class. Yeah, that's cool.
do you have a favorite documentary, non-Canadian, just in general?
In general, standout favorite. I don't know if you like. I don't want you to like quote me on this 10 years from now, but Searching for Sugarman.
Yeah,
it came out a little while ago. My God, that film is really good. And very, very kind of surprising how it unfolds. I really like the fact that there's so much depth to the story as you kind of like progress through past halfway. You really, great one. Highly recommend it. What else? Who else is doing good work? Slips my mind. Yeah, I have a lot of documentaries on the watch list right now. With a newborn baby, it's really hard. I'm honestly, it's like a 3 to 4 month like hiatus from watching films. So I was Searching for Sugarman is the one that's really standing out for me right now. I'm gonna come back to you though as they come to me, because when we move on to the next topic, they're all gonna flood into my brain.
That's totally fine. For some reason, I knew you were gonna say Searching for Sugarman. It's just
how did
one
you
of those.
know?
I don't know. It's that one. It's that one. Well, just asking, what do you like to do in your spare time? Obviously, your passion outside of your work right now is
Under a Blue Moon. I think it's called Under a Blue Moon. Is a film by Brain Farm. Incredible visuals, and it's it's also a surfing film about John Florence, who's one of the best in the world. But if you like those like visually sport oriented documentaries, it's insane.
Thoughts on Free Solo?
Loved Free Solo. That's another great one.
Yeah.
And very topical lately because I'm working on a climbing film. And yes, Free Solo is fantastic. I watched it actually on the plane back from Brazil when we were shooting.
Oh, nice.
Freshwater, and loved it. It was like, it gave me chills, which is very hard to do when you're on a plane.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully very hard to do. It's just an uncomfortable experience, but like, yeah.
I enjoyed Don Wall as well, just to pair that with Free Solo.
Yeah.
Kind of like a separate piece. But yeah, so you have a newborn. So what are some of your passions outside of your work right now? Obviously, caring and being dad is probably a big part of what you got to be. But I guess, what are some of the things you like to do just for fun outside of that?
Okay, yeah. Yes, obviously, my hands are really full. And, people... I run into this a lot. This is very like rampant in the film industry. Is the idea if people should they should have a family or not, and will they still be able to excel at their work and everything? The answer is, I think I'm a testament to the fact that at very least you can continue your work with a lot of like passion. It doesn't go away. So I think people, yes, if you want to have a family, have one. Don't let your work hold you back. But the sacrifices you will make are on time. It's really like constricts a lot of your time, and to put a lot of time and effort into the work you're making, and being there, for your family, you really become like a 2-track mind. A lot of it is very much into kind of like the work and what you want to do, and you really make a lot of your work your passion, and your work. So it's and you know what? I think we're really lucky to be able to do that. The people who are able to make their passion their work legitimately, it's great. So yes. Looking after the kiddos and just hanging out with the family brings me so much joy. But I think the things you're looking for are the things I'm like doing right now. Other than that, so like I go skateboarding. I've been really doing that, and you just gotta look for the little things you can do while also doing being in a billion other places. So skateboarding is something you can just get out there and do for 15 minutes and feel like sweet. And so I've been doing more of that lately. I was actually out lake surfing for a little while, but that has been squashed with the 2 kids. It was doable with one, but with 2 kids, I'm gonna put it on hold. What else?
Favorite board game?
I'm not a big board game guy, but the one that always keeps coming back in our house is Cranium.
Oh yeah,
And
nice.
yeah, so that's a a mainstay.
Nice.
Yeah.
What? Well, I like that you touched on the balance of work and life there. That's something that I think, and just the nature of sacrifice in that regard, because it is definitely a thing I think that a lot of people face in this industry, and it's something that we should have a more support for, or resources for, or people should be able to talk about it more, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's a thing.
I think 100%.
It's definitely a thing.
And you see like what's going on right now with IATSE, and how, and there's, especially I think through COVID, this whole like work-life balance in the film industry is becoming a bit more a forefront topic, and I think it very well should. People should be able to have a family and work in entertainment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Agreed. I'm curious about your own working methods. Do you prefer working with structure, or are you more into like an open, flexible way of working?
You know what? I really do appreciate organization. One thing I was thinking about before this call is that, like, I used to take this notebook with me, like everywhere I go, and I'd write down every meeting I'd go into. I'd have notes. I usually wouldn't read them back later, but I would just write the notes, and that process was really like gave my brain a lot of structure, and I've been like feeling so loosey-goosey without it, so I'm trying to get back into it. But I think I really do appreciate a solid structure. Although at the same time, I'm not a very like acutely detailed oriented person. I'm much more of a big picture person. So I think let's just say this: being prepared. There's so much value to being prepared, and being someone who comes into things prepared and ready to go. And that is just putting your best foot forward. So being the best you can be is being prepared, but leaving room for improvisation, I think, is very crucial to having an authentic voice. So
nice. I like that. I think that it's a good sort of tip for anybody listening, for directing, producing, any sort of whatever work you're doing in this industry. It's good to sort of have that preparedness, but at the same time be open to what could potentially happen, because you don't want to control too much of the situation. You want to be able to allow the situation to happen.
Exactly.
I'm curious, because with documentary and a film like Freshwater, you had to travel for it, obviously. So I'm curious, is that something that you prioritize with your work, is to find travel through it and to sort of marry those two together, your love of, or your passion for filmmaking with your love of travel? Is that something that you've been able to cultivate, or for future, is that something you're looking to do as well? Probably with the family, it's a little bit more difficult, but I'm just curious. And obviously COVID, but that's a loaded question. I'll just throw it over to you now.
No, good question. And I hear other people get asked that sometimes. And I think a lot of the interest initially, especially when you're younger going into this kind of work, is the opportunity to travel. And I do travel a bit. It's not something that drives me. I've said, and I still believe this, although I forget what it's like now, but I think traveling for work, I find to be a little bit more interesting than traveling for vacations. I love my home. I love, where we live. And, but when you travel for a work related thing, I think it's a lot, you're going to do a job, and you have a goal and to accomplish. And I think it really is a much, much better window into what life is really like in the place you're going to. If you're traveling to, like, for example, take Freshwater, like we went to Brazil, but we spent, I think, 3 days in Rio de Janeiro, and we spent like a week and a half in Joinville and Florianopolis, which are these like towns in the south of Brazil that you don't really go to if you're not from Brazil. And we traveled to Brazil in the middle of the winter down there. We left the summer in Canada to go to the winter in Brazil, and that's not typically when you go to visit Brazil as a tourist. So like, I think that is a much more interesting way personally to travel. So I do really enjoy that aspect of it. It's not why I got into it, and it's not what drives me. I think what drives me is the ability to impact people with like through storytelling, and doing it in a way that's entertaining and fun and engaging. Yeah, that's, I think, like the goal always. And then often that can require travel, but if it doesn't, like, I'm game. Like I'm just as committed. Yeah.
it seems like you are drawn to sort of the adventure though, and the outdoor, and you're saying there's a climbing thing that you guys have got going. So that's
Yeah.
definitely sort of a good through line, and that stuff is always super visually interesting to look at too, right? So finding ways
Yeah,
to
you know,
get that.
yeah, you know what it is, I think with that is that the outdoors, I think I have a part of what I can bring, I think, to films, and what gets me excited about like my strength is that visual identity. And I think having a film that takes place majority outside is like gleans to that. And then also action sports, or just sport in general, or something with a lot of movement. And it gives you a lot of active scenes that you can incorporate. And in like in the medium of a documentary, it's hard to, it can be hard to sort of get active scenes really incorporated into the story. And to be honest, those are the most engaging parts of the film. Films are like things where something is unfolding in front of you while you're filming it. And it's like, it's not necessarily like always a given in a film. Like, Ken Burns, for example, it's like you see a lot of still images. So I think that is what is sort of how I make that connection, and what gets me excited about a story is like, oh, it's very visually and like appealing, and there's a lot of activity, there's a lot of action, a lot of movement that I can kind of capture, and the story's there, and it's that's engaging as well. And then when those three things come together, I get like so stoked, and I'm like, okay, this is the thing. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, it also breaks up the talking heads.
yeah, exactly.
Which kind of leads me into the sort of I don't want to just jump right into post, because maybe it is just sort of the natural answer to this next question. But in your experience of working on all of these different projects, not just freshwater, but in totality, all this different stuff that you've worked on, what aspect of the process do you find is the most overlooked, or just least sort of attention gone to?
And what's like, I mean, in films that I watch, what do I criticize the most, or like in people kind of getting started, what do they like forget about?
No. Sort of the projects that you work on. At what point in the process, whether that's prep, production, post, or aspects of those processes, is overlooked and should be.
like people don't necessarily notice.
Yeah.
Oh, what's overlooked? There's so much prep and thought that goes into creating a film. I think a really good film usually kind of has this effortless kind of like feel to it, and there's so much that goes into creating that effortlessness. Not that it's an authentic representation of what happens. It's more just that you really need a target in mind. If you're making a film, you need to know like what your end goal is. Even you may not know what happens between A and B all the time, but planning to get to B is like takes a lot of time, effort, and work, and how you're gonna like lay out the film to keep it engaging and worth watching. And I think that the preparation in story and the sheer quest to find story anywhere in the world in your life is I think the thing that people wouldn't necessarily know as a consumer of the content going in. And on that note, I think it's also the thing that people getting into making docs just don't understand fully. It takes a lot to kind of like build a process and framework for yourself, because no one's asking you to do it at that point. Build a framework and process for yourself to really whittle down what it is you're trying to say and do and express in a piece.
Is there a particular part of the process you enjoy most?
I really like the sit-down interviews. I think like it's really fun. I've done, especially kind of through my corporate work and commercial work, I've done a lot of sort of talking at interviews, talk to like CEOs, scientists, people with kind of physical disabilities, anyone, all walks of life that you can imagine. And it's just so interesting getting just a slice of their life, and it's, you talk to someone differently when you know it's being recorded, because as a subject, or as someone, in this case right now, I know it's being consumed in one way or another, and it's you're willing, I think, as a subject, to put a little bit more into getting your story straight and getting it right, and like opening up a little bit more, and being a little bit more vulnerable. And I just like love like learning that about people. Even just discovery interviews, just talking to subjects before we ever turn a camera on. I find it really interesting.
That's very meta. That's very meta of you. I'm curious, as we sort of wrap up things now, we're kind of meeting our end mark. I was curious to maybe give a shout out, or if you have any names that you'd like to shout out, and talk about just their role in helping you as some of your mentors.
Yeah. There's I had a film teacher at Sheridan. His name was Vladimir Kabalik. He taught a documentary course, and he was this kind of old hardened documentary filmmaker. He has a really, really unique and probably scary and kind of a wild history about how he even kind of made it to Canada. And by the skin of his teeth, as a younger filmmaker, he just had so much passion for filmmaking, and he really instilled all these things into me, and I really owe a lot of my perspective on documentary to him. So I would say Vladimir Kabalik. He's 100% not watching this because he's probably doing something else with his in his old retirement age. But he definitely had a big influence on me. So there's another point for film school.
Shout out to Professor Vladimir.
Vladimir, exactly. I don't know why I'm plugging film school so much. I've done it twice in this interview, and it's really not that crucial right now for people. There's a lot you can do online, but yeah.
This is true.
Yeah, and then watching. I think this, watching your peers around you who you admire is really important too. It kind of like opens up your eyes to what's possible within your own space, and that is very motivating. I find that very motivating.
Nice, man. That's a great answer. I guess just to recap, what kinds of stories do you want to create and produce?
Yes, I think this is very important for a filmmaker to know and understand and eventually figure out. This goes back a big part to what your voice is. I want to make stories that uplift people, both the viewer and the subject. There's a lot of true crime out there. There's a lot of gotcha documentaries, which I think are very interesting, and kind of journalistic kind of documentaries about uncovering stuff. That I don't think is for me. I'm really into stories that are uplifting, and shine a light on things that are inspiring, and also I think docs that express personal growth, that can show personal growth and like themes that are universal for people that they can take away, stuff like that. I'm not trying to be like an evangelist or someone who knows more than others, but that's kind of the things that interest me. And then beyond that, docs that are exciting. I think there's a lot to be said for documentaries that are very watchable, and like things that are visually interesting, dynamic, that can really engage the viewer. Made you laugh, made you cry. I think like that's entertaining is not necessarily a word that like documentary filmmakers throw out there readily, but I think that's very important, and it's a whole part of the craft and achieving your whatever theoretical goals are. Having people want to watch the entire film and be really engaged with it and share it with their friends and that kind of thing is also very important. And I think like a lot of what's fun for me in telling those stories is making it like cool and interesting and something that's intriguing and thing what people want to watch and it's worth watching.
Nice.
Yeah.
In regards to just building solid team chemistry and supporting one another in this chaotic film TV landscape, I'm just kind of curious, do you have any sort of strategies, or what's your just stance on supporting one another and just, this is a team, it's a very collaborative art form that we find ourselves in. So just what are some strategies you find to just sort of embrace that and make sure that everybody's on the same page and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Mental health, just how important that is too. And
yeah, no kidding. You know what? Okay, so in supporting one another, I think is very important. Obviously. I think that could take so many different shapes and forms. I think generally, I'm pro supporting one another. I think in the world of trying to be a filmmaker and in the scripted documentary space, it can be very siloed when it comes to sort of like the people, like directors, probably a lot of cases writers, and a lot of producers are generally relatively collaborative. But especially in the director's world, I find that I never worked with other directors, almost ever. And it's something that I wish I got the opportunity to do more, shadow other directors. And because you can learn so much from people who are so ingrained into that same kind of like responsibility. So, because it is a big responsibility, I think I'm just now starting to kind of connect more with other directors. And I think it's important to find your peers, basically. Find your peers and show a genuine interest in what they're doing, and find ways to help each other however you can. And I'm sure it takes a lot of different shapes and forms. But there's just like back in the day when I was in a band, there's a lot of like,
what did you
I
play?
guess like what
did you play? Nice.
Guitar, and I sang, and drums a little bit. But there's a lot of sort of like checking over your shoulder to make sure like you're doing as good as your friends and stuff like that. I think really everybody has such a unique perspective and voice, and I think the best thing you can do is just like uplift the people around you, and then and that will likely kind of ricochet back at some point as well.
Nice. Well, David, I wanted to thank you very much for your time this evening. I know you're a very busy man, so I just wanted to say, one more time, thank you. We are grateful. Everybody who's watching, go check out Fresh Water on Crave, and now I'll just give you the floor, David, if you want to give any shout outs or, Belle's on studio. Wait, you were in a band. What? But yeah, David, the floor is yours if you want to give any shout outs. We always give our guests the opportunity to say whatever they'd like to finish her off.
Oh, sure. Shout outs to people on Bachelor in Paradise for always feeling surprised when they get dumped.
Nice.
Shout out to the place where you get your shirts.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Shout out to Old Navy. Shout out to Buck. Thank you guys very much for having me, and obviously to you, Jade, so much for showing an interest. I'm taking so much care of this program. Shout out to everyone who stuck through this whole talk, and everyone who's listening. Thank you. And shout out to my beautiful wife and family. And it's bedtime now. I think I'm gonna go home.
Yep. I'll see you.
Shout out to my pillow.
And see you in Kincardine for some Great Lakes surfing very soon.
Sounds good.
All right, David. Have a great night, and everybody else.
Freshwater in the U.S. Oh, sorry. Someone's asking about the U.S. and freshwater and FVD Hills. Yes, in 2021, I'm pretty sure we will have it in the U.S. We are just looking to find a home. We have a lot of irons in the fire, and we are narrowing down which one that would be. So more to come on freshwater in the U.S. as well as Australia and New Zealand is a definite thing. We're waiting for their lockdown to kind of subside over there for all of our viewers in Australia and New Zealand, and probably likely other places.
I love it. So stay tuned for more on freshwater.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.